Prologue. Fire. A group of roamers came dangerously close to our home yesterday, while walking straight toward an old lady with a small child. We could not tell them to run, and they had not seen or heard the threat yet. The lady stumbled with every step, dehydrated almost to death. The child was small and frail, probably born after the day and too young to realize in what type of world he lived. Their steps echoed on the cream-colored walls of the houses around them, their shadows dancing on the broken street. Vines slowed the lady's steps by tangling her bare feet, while the child played at stepping on dandelions. They were completely defenseless, and their luck had run out. Oh God, the roamers were merciless. They saw the lady and child and started running and shouting at them. The poor lady had a small supermarket cart with hardly any supplies. They were probably dead way before the roamers spotted her. What they did to her, I don't want to remember. Ever. It was a bloodbath. It was... I can't. My brother was beside me, staring at the horrible scene. Before, during, and after the killing, he did not move. He just stared at the group of roamers with hatred in his eyes, and his fists clenched at his sides. Maybe he wanted to save the old lady and the kid, but suffered in silence because he couldn't. His eyes did not show suffering, but no words came from his mouth. My shocked mind must have been playing tricks on me, as I even saw smoke coming out of his clenched fists, and his eyes turned slightly yellow. Without a word, my brother stood up, opened the hatch on our roof, and left me alone. The wind was rustling the leaves, giving me goosebumps. I heard him grab his equipment and leave our house. I knew he was going to kill them. He would not risk having those men so close to us. A time bomb best exploded before its time is up, he'd said. Before, when people got close to our house. I understand why he does it, and I hate that he must be the bad guy. The roamers left the bodies in the middle of the street as if disposable. Those devils did not deserve to live. Even though my brother is not entitled to take someone's life, I know God will forgive him. In this world, someone must do justice by making the toughest decisions. Otherwise, we are all doomed to the most brutal death, and the world will be for those unworthy of its beauty. The devils started setting up a camp about 300 meters away from our house. They lifted a camping tent in a heartbeat, with a green camouflaged exterior on top of black metal bases, surrounded by a playground. How sick to use such a joyful place, a child's haven. Two more built a fire using what seemed to be the clothes they had stolen from their victims. I despised them. They seemed to be having the time of their lives, working together, joking, throwing water at each other, fake fighting, and trying to burn each other with small burning twigs. How could God allow them to enjoy life instants after they had taken away two innocent souls? Their laughs, audible from a rooftop, were darts to my heart. I watched my brother walk towards their camp, silent and quick. 1 second, he was in my view. The next, he disappeared. He can blend with his surroundings and is the fastest, stealthiest runner I have ever seen. You will never hear or see him coming unless he wants you to. Trust me, I have received thousands of blows to my head for not being able to foresee him. Surprise attacks are inevitable when you live with an untrained 14-year-old scarecrow as a sidekick. 10 minutes later, I saw one of their scouts 30 minutes from the last place I'd seen my brother. I started panicking, my heart racing. Where could he be? Did he see the scout? Was he heard? My God, what would I do if he's caught? The scout was armed and staring straight at my brother's last location. The scout was standing still, trying hard to see through the night shadows, moving side to side, confused, believing he'd heard something. His stance was rigid. He was afraid. The scout turned around suddenly, then fell to his knees with an arrow straight through his throat. A quick shout ran over him, taking the arrow too as he vanished into the night. That was way too close. The scout must have heard or seen him. What if he'd alerted the others? What if my brother was defeated? It felt like being seat-belted into a car being pushed toward an abyss, and unable to do a thing about it. That is how I feel every night he goes out. 50 meters away from the dead man, I saw my brother again, creeping up to a tent. Close to the tent, he started to back away. Where was he going? Why back away? Were there too many? Surprise attacks are invaluable. I wished I could hear what he heard, to at least have an idea of what he was facing. He stood completely still, about 10 meters away from the tent. He bowed his head for about 20 seconds. Why would he do that? Was he praying for the souls of the victims he was about to take? I really didn't think so, as I have never seen him pray before. He should have attacked them before they saw him, or come home if he was having any doubts. Abruptly, the tent burst into fire. A giant fireball consumed the tent, roaring toward the sky above, illuminating the playground where they had set up camp. We've suffered 13 days of rain. How could a tent catch fire? I guessed they had a gas leak and my brother was lucky. Maybe he backed away after hearing the gas leak and lit up the tent. Thank God for fire. It was burning fiercely as if fire could hate and shout in anger. The whole night sky was illuminated with the light coming from the torched-up tent. Those men and their suffering were hard to take. But at the same time, they were evil. They would have done to us what they did to the old lady and the child, massacred us without a doubt. How can something so important for survival be so deadly? Fire is amazing. Staring at the giant flames roaring from the tent, I'd felt in peace until the screams from the tent's occupants brought me back to reality. My brother. Where was he? He was caught in the fire? Did he get burned? Did he die? I looked around the flaming tent, down the road to the houses nearby, straight to the surrounding trees. He was nowhere to be seen. He'd simply vanished again. Uncontrollable anxiety filled my body and mind. I felt my skin get cold, and my teeth start chattering. Trembles ran across my body. Real fear of losing him. Physical fear. Fuck me. Where was my brother? As swiftly as the fire had started, it turned into a tornado and collapsed in on itself. No more fire. No more screams. Only silence. The only proof of it were the ashes where the tent used to stand. What happened? That was extremely weird, though the gas could have run out. What if he was caught in the fire? He would be careful not to go close to it. I hoped he was coming back home. 5 meters to the right of the ashes stood my brother, holding his sword and staring into the night. He was waiting for something. Why didn't he run back home? Somehow, he knew the battle was not over. I needed him back. Standing there was way too dangerous. He was completely exposed. And at night, especially, death lurks around every corner. Then, out of the woods came 4 roamers running straight toward the tent. One was almost a 2-meter tall man, bearded, with an army shirt and destroyed cargo pants. He held a 70-centimeter long knife that shone with the moon's reflection on its blade. It sent a chill down my spine to see that blade heading toward my brother. And the man made my brother look small by comparison. On either side of him, 2 hooded figures held wooden sticks with nails sticking out of their tips. They were about the same size as my brother, and they were laughing at him. Their awful laugh echoed all the way to my rooftop, seeming to come straight from hell and filled with hate. The fourth was a small man holding a bow and arrow at the ready, as he struggled to keep up with his cohorts. A single arrow he had, one miss and he'd be dead, but one hit and he'd be. What if they managed to defeat him? I struggled with whether to stay there or leave and try to save my brother. He hadn't moved. He wasn't showing any reaction to these new foes. They stopped their run 6 meters away from my brother. Why was he so calm? All of them had a death grin on their faces. Predators, staring at prey. How could one man stand a chance against 4 seasoned armed men? He did not back off as they walked closer and closer. Each step seemed to duplicate my heartbeat. 4 meters away and they started circling around my brother. All flanks menaced. They stopped 3 meters away, and the tall man approached him with his knife stuck out in front of him. My brother held his ground and stared right into the man's eyes. The man grabbed him by his forearm and started shouting at him, then held his knife right at my brother's throat and tried to grab his quiver. He stared at the man as if he were not threatening. It was weird how peaceful he looked, and this did nothing to calm my nerves. Suddenly, the tall man screamed in agony, staring at the hand he'd just used to grab my brother. In the blink of an eye, the small bowman fell to the ground with an arrow splitting his forehead, and the tall man grabbed his throat, trying to stop a rush of blood from flowing out of a deep gash. The large blade fell to the playground floor. No more reflection came from it as its previous owner died on top of it, protecting it from the bright moon. My brother still stood as if nothing had happened. I had not seen him move, yet he defeated 2 adult men in the blink of an eye. How? He does not have an ally, at least none I know of. He wouldn't trust anyone to help him. If he was alone, what had happened wasn't possible. The twins started to circle him, talking to each other and yelling at him. Men always try to hide their fear behind useless threats and screams. They moved quicker and quicker circling him, trying to find a weak spot to attack. They were still 2 guys with weapons, but I felt they had no chance. Maybe my brother's peacefulness was a sign of what was about to happen. He is never thoughtless, so I knew he was measuring the perfect moment to end those men's lives. They did not stand a chance. He turned his head and stared straight at me. Did he know I was watching? I set our binoculars down and went back inside.
Tale of Two Brothers. Prologue, Fire. Narrated by its author, Daniel Fernández Masís. Audio version produced for Qué leemos hoy podcast by Mario Chacón. Original music by Kevin MacLeod. If you like it, be sure to share it with your friends on your social media. Thanks for listening.